The long-term capital gains tax on equity is back. The finance minister announced in his budget speech that the long-term gains on equity would now be taxed at 10%. There was a provision for grandfathering of the gains made on stock that was bought up to the 31st of January. However, there's a bit of confusion with regard to those provisions. I'm joined by Pranav Sayta, a tax partner at EY. Thanks so much for speaking to us so early in the morning, Pranav. Just for the benefit of the viewers who've joined in now and who don't really know about what's happened, can you take us through the brief highlights of the bringing back of the LTCG?
Right. So broadly, what the finance minister has proposed in his budget yesterday is that any long-term capital gains arising from sales of shares on the stock exchange will now be taxable at the rate of 10%, provided the sale is made after 1st April 2018, on or after 1st April 2018. However, what the finance minister also has said is two things. If the long-term capital gain is up to 1 lakh, that's not taxable. Only in excess of 1 lakh gets taxable. And second, more importantly, that all gains up to 31st January 2018 will stay protected and grandfathered, meaning thereby that any appreciation unrealized gains on stocks held up to 31st January 2018 will not be subject to this tax if and when the sale happens on or after April 1, 2018. Effectively, what the finance minister says is that the actual cost incurred by the taxpayer for purchase of the shares or the fair value as on the listed price as on 31st January 2018, actual cost or the value as on 31st January 2018, whichever is higher, will be allowed as a deduction while computing capital gain as a deduction from the sale price. And therefore, effectively, appreciations up to 31st January 2018 are grandfathered, and only appreciations after that date will get taxed if and when the shares are sold on or after April 1, 2018.
Now, Pranav, there are some confusions with regard to that grandfathering, provision, and I'm going to give it across to Darshan Mehta now to take this conversation forward, because I know that he has some very important points to raise.
Good morning, Pranav. Hi. Just wanted firstly some bit of I believe there was some bit of confusion as far as how FIIs will be taxed because of this long-term capital gain. Can you throw some light on that first?
Right. So there is some confusion because of the language used in the finance bill itself. And that seems to suggest there is a separate provision which deals with taxation of FIIs. And the provision that is proposed in that particular section is such that it leaves room for debate and probably gives rise to the impression that the grandfathering benefit that we just described, the value as on 31st January 2018 being allowable as a deduction, is not mentioned in the case of the provision or the section which deals with FIIs. And therefore, the confusion is that do the FIIs qualify for the grandfathering benefit that we just described, or do they not? My feeling is that the intention probably was to allow grandfathering to all, but it's a slight miss in the language, and which probably should get corrected. But at least as the provisions of the finance bill stand now, there is some confusion whether or not FIIs qualify for the grandfathering benefit.
How do you think this will impact FII investments that will come into India and the already existing investments?
Right. So the way I look at it is, if an FII is protected already under a treaty, for example, under the Mauritius-India Treaty or the Singapore-India Treaty, capital gains was exempt and probably continues to be exempt, grandfathered under the treaty, so to say, for investments, as you know, that were made on or before 31st March 2017. So if a FII is, and most FIIs may be, already protected under the treaty, then investments made on or before 31st March 2017 were in any case grandfathered and will continue to qualify for the benefits of the treaty, both under the amendment that happened to the treaty, Mauritius as well as Singapore, under the protocol some time back, as well as under the GAR provisions, the General Anti-Avoidance Rules provisions, both of which grandfather investments made up to 31st March 2017 from any future capital gains tax on exit, on sale. And therefore, those might still be well protected if the FII qualifies for the benefit of the relevant treaty. The other might be investments made on or after April 1, 2017. Those now may not get the benefit of the proposed grandfathering under yesterday's long-term capital gains tax which has been introduced, meaning if the sale of these shares were to happen on or after April 1, 2018, the shares acquired on or after April 1, 2017, then those will be taxable under the head capital gain at the rate of 10% without the grandfathering, meaning value as on 31st January 2018 being allowable or the appreciation up to 31st January 2018 being protected or grandfathered. Without that benefit, it might get taxed at 10% if the sale happens after April 1, 2018. And if they sell before April 1, 2018, because we are talking of shares acquired on or after April 2017, they might get taxed as short-term capital gain at the rate of 15%, as you know, because it will be a sale within 1 year. So if the grandfathering is not available to FIIs, then the grandfathering protection of appreciation up to 31st January 2018, in short, may not be available to an FII. I think they should get clarified, but we have to wait and see.
Okay. And final question before we let you go. This entire deal that came in terms of the long-term capital gain for the benefit of our viewers will be applicable from 31st from 1st April 2018, right? So if someone manages, so they have to pay this tax in the next assessment year, right?
Absolutely correct. Only if the sale of shares happens on or after April 1, 2018, does this new long-term capital gains tax of 10% apply.
Okay.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Pranav, for taking the time this early in the morning to speak to us and for clarifying all those bits of confusion with the implementation of the LTCG, of course.